Our speaker this morning is Roger Crawford. I have to start with Roger by saying Roger's a friend. He's a neighbor. He's a Christian, spouse, a father. Roger's also a speaker who travels on that stage to inspire audiences with the message of I Can. Roger also tells me, though, that whatever advantage he has because of who he is as an individual has to be repeated day after day, just like you do, in terms of communicating to people and saying, here's what I have to offer that makes a difference in your life. Roger just returned in September from New York, where he was honored by the International Tennis Association as their 2013 Achievement Award of the Year. Recognition that as a varsity tennis player at Loyola Marymount, he's got more stories that have me rolling and laughing. Then I'll let him decide whether he's going to tell those or not. But Roger's that individual that looks at opportunities going in front. Thank you, Roger, for being a friend, and thank you for coming today to talk with us.
No problem. Wow, 1,028 successes. Isn't that great news? Wow, if that doesn't give you a sense of hope and optimism about the future, I don't know what does. Wonderful to be here. Dan called me a few weeks ago and asked me if I would come, and I said, I would be honored. I was here last year, and I left feeling so encouraged and uplifted when I heard the great success stories like we heard from Jeff this morning. So I'm really thrilled to be your speaker. I faced a physical challenge that affects all 4 of my limbs. I guess the best way that I could describe it comes from my youngest daughter, Alexa. A few years ago, she was head cheerleader, valedictorian, and class president in the 3rd grade. And, well, what can I tell you? It's my kid. And so she comes one day and she says, Daddy, I'm so excited. I've already talked to my teacher. I want you to come and speak at my school during an assembly. Now, as I'm sure all of you in this room can imagine, I'm so touched that my precious little girl would want me to come and visit her school. So I thought it was appropriate that we sit down and discuss the day. I said, sweetheart, do you realize that if I stand in front of all the boys and girls, they're going to know about your daddy's hands and about his legs? Honey, I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable with that. Here's what she said. Dad, God made you to be an inspirational speaker. How about touching my heart? I said, sweetie, that's such a nice thing to say. And then she explained. She said, yeah, Daddy, you got a peace sign in one hand and a thumbs up on the other. This physical challenge affects me from the elbows down and from the knees down. I have 3 toes on my right foot and a partially developed lower right leg. And as a young boy, I grew up in the beautiful city of Cleveland, Ohio. Oh, are you from Cleveland?
I'm from outside of Cleveland.
Are you really? We've got to stick together.
Yeah.
We really do. I mean, Cleveland's been kind of a brunt of jokes and so forth, and we actually never planned this. I always say when people clap, and they say, I'm from Cleveland, I say, it's always nice to know there's someone else in the audience with the same handicap that I have, right? But you and I both know what a great place Cleveland, Ohio is, and my family's still back there, and I love going back. Talk about, just a quick aside about Cleveland, by the way, talk about hope, and that was part of the part of my message. Dave was talking about hope. Cleveland has had an incredible renaissance, downtown. I mean, they've completely redeveloped it, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and so forth. And you know what the genesis of that whole redevelopment was? It was a city council meeting when a woman of 83 years of age said, do you know what I think would really help downtown Cleveland? If you turned on the lights in Terminal Tower. That way, when people look towards the skyline, they think, wow, something's happening in Cleveland. And that was really how the redevelopment got started, just that light. Isn't that something, how just that a little bit of hope can move people and move communities forward. So a quick aside there about Cleveland. But I was unable to walk until I was 5 years old. I can remember as a young boy sitting outside of my parents' front porch and watching all the neighborhood children play outside. And as I'm sure all of you in this room can imagine, I so desperately wanted to be like them. I wanted to have normal hands and normal legs, and Well, whenever I would face discouragement, the person I would turn to was my mother, the wisest person I know. I remember asking her this question, Mom, why do kids tease me? And she used to say to me, well, honey, that's just a weak person's imitation of strength. I had an audience member approach me and say, you know, Roger Crawford, I think Eleanor Roosevelt said that. I said, I am shocked. Eleanor Roosevelt, former First Lady of the United States, seemed to be a woman of integrity. So I can't believe that she would steal that quote from my mom. I learned about possibility thinking very early in my life. Now I know here at Job 1, you talk a lot about possibility thinking. And let me tell you how I see it. For all of us in this room, our lives will ultimately be defined by what we choose to dwell on, what we focus on. Isn't it interesting? You don't need to spend a great deal of time and energy seeking out problems. Isn't it interesting how problems tend to find us? I think it's important we spend our time and energy focusing on opportunities and possibilities. Found a doc that changed my life. The Shriners Hospital in Chicago. He amputated the bottom part of my left leg, then reconstructed my knee. So this morning I'm wearing an artificial leg or prosthesis. You know, when Dan introduced me this morning and I walked up on the stage, for those of you that haven't heard me speak before, and I know a couple of you have, you saw my hands for the first time and you probably thought, wow, this speaker today has really faced quite a burden in his life. I want you to know I really don't see it that way. In fact, when I look at my hands, they've been much more of a blessing than a burden. When I look at my hands, they remind me of the power of persistence. And we heard that this morning from Jeff's story. Power of persistence, never quitting. It took me 16 years to learn how to tie my shoes. My hands remind me of that. Tying my shoes was my last step to independence. That's how important it was for me. When I finally learned how to tie my shoes, I kid you not, 2 weeks later somebody invents Velcro. Where was that when I was growing up? We've all heard the saying, never let success go to your head. I want everyone to hang on to this next statement. This is something I learned from my tennis coach when I was a young player. Roger Crawford, never let failure go to your head. We heard that this morning, didn't we? Talking about a job search, 5 months, 14 interviews, as I remember the story, hopefully correctly. Wow, hanging in there, persistence. Never let failure go to your head. You know what else my hands have taught me? Gratitude. Gratitude. You know, we just celebrated Thanksgiving, and I got to tell you, when I look at my life, it seems like I should be celebrating Thanksgiving every day. Every day. Look at what my life could be, then I look at what my life is. I think all of us in this room, if we took a look at that in our own lives, we'd all say, wow, we've had so many blessings. So much to be grateful for. And you know, Dan, I want to tell you, I just think that having the cards this morning and writing down what you're thankful for and expressing gratitude to the people that assist you in your job search, wow, I think that is incredibly powerful, Dan. And I haven't shared this story with you, but I was thinking about this morning about gratitude. One of the best examples that I saw of this attitude was when I was speaking in French Lick, Indiana. It's a rather small town. I was there to speak to the school district, and I was met there by a gentleman named Dr. Roger Fisher. I said, Dr. Fisher, it is a pleasure to meet you. I am so excited to speak to your staff tomorrow. I just really am grateful for the opportunity. He said, Roger, it's nice to have you here. And I said, Dr. Fisher, I am a basketball fan. And I know that French Lick, Indiana is the birthplace of the legendary all-star Larry Bird. He paused. He said, yes, Roger, that's right. In fact, you should know that I'm well acquainted with Larry Bird. I was his junior high school basketball coach. I I cut him from the team. That's why I'm a superintendent and not a basketball coach. Okay? Makes sense. For those of you that aren't basketball fans, this story is not about athletics. It's about gratitude. So if you're not a basketball fan, the only thing you really need to know about Larry Bird is he's one of the greatest basketball players of all time. So Dr. Fisher said to me, you know, Roger, would you like to drive by Larry Bird's home? It's on the way to where you'll be staying, and it's really not that far out of our way. I said, that would be great. What a thrill. So I'll never forget, we went on this rural road, came upon this impressive-looking estate. I mean, the word that came to mind was palatial. Gorgeous home. Next to it, full-length basketball court with a Boston Celtic emblem on it. Wow. That's the team he played for. But that is not what I'll remember. You see, my friends, there's a lot of life that we can't choose. But we can choose what we remember from our past. We can use that to fuel an attitude of hope and inspiration. When I speak to audiences, I like to say it this way. We choose what we mentally DVR. We choose what we mentally DVR. That's how powerful our past is. Definition of wisdom is experience and reflection. So you see, wisdom's not automatic. Wisdom is intentional. It's going back and looking at life experience and evaluating life experience that gives us wisdom. I think that's the same with hope. It's not automatic. It's intentional. It's a choice. Next to the driveway at Larry Bird's home was a structure that looked like it was about to fall over. I mean, it was that dilapidated. Now think about this for a moment. A gorgeous home, full-length basketball court, this incredible opulence, and then this home. So I said to Dr. Fisher, who lives there? And he smiled and he said, well, Roger, that is where Larry Bird grew up. He said, Roger, when Larry Bird constructed his dream home in French Lick, Indiana, with the full-length basketball court and the Boston Celtic emblem, he insisted that he have his childhood home placed next to the driveway. So when he came home, or when he left, he was always reminded of where he came from. See, my friends, I think if we take a look at that story, what Larry Bird was really expressing was the power of gratitude. He looked at where he had come from and he was celebrating the incredible blessings that he's had in his life. Reminded me of what the late, it's hard to believe when I say late, Bishop Sherwood Carthen used to say. He used to say, we're all going to face mountains in our lives, and when we do, pray that they are rocky. Because then you got something to hang on to when you slip. That's good, isn't it? Yeah. What he was communicating to us is that our lives are not defined by our circumstances, they're defined by our choices. And as we face those rocky times and we learn that we can hang on and we can persevere, then that gives us hope for our future. If I could distill everything I know about motivation down into one sentence, it would be this. We'll find the perseverance required today if we see hope tomorrow. So that's what I think, like you to think about today. What does your tomorrow look like? We're coming to the end of 2013. How about 2014? What does it look like? What is it that you see? And the reason I believe our attitude is so important, my friends, would you agree with this? We very rarely, if ever, perform better than we believe we can. Our attitude is the window through which we see our life experience. It's the foundation, I believe, for all achievement. I'm reminded this every day by two members of our family. It's our dogs. Dan Lott, my neighbor, has met our two dogs. We both, my wife and I got these dogs at Placer SPCA. And what I will tell you, okay, you're familiar with...
I volunteered there.
You do. You volunteer there. Okay.
The Roseville one.
Well, we have, like I said, we have 2 dogs from there, and here's what I learned. There's nothing more expensive than a free dog. Have you experienced this?
Yeah, mine have, yes.
We love our dogs.
I have a dog that she has to have brain freeze.
So every time the doorbell rings, our dogs are on the job. They run for the door, they sit and they wait till that door's open. Maybe you have a dog at home that does something similar. It's amazing, right? Those dogs have lived in our home for quite a few years, answered every door in the Crawford household. The door has never been for the dogs. Here's my point. My friends, today I'd like you to think about this in your life. How can you make your desire more powerful than your disappointments? I think it comes from an attitude of hope.
Yes.
Second principle I wanted to share with you today is the importance of never standing still. Continuing to grow. You know, a few years ago, you heard people say this quite a bit. Boy, I'll be a lot more positive when things get back to normal. And you know what's fascinating? The world is changing so fast, it doesn't seem like we're going back to normal, does it?
No.
It seems like normal lies ahead of us and not behind us. That's why I think Job 1 is so incredibly effective. Because it allows us to continue to grow. Because the best leaders are perpetual students. They realize they're going to get better today than they were yesterday. I had the opportunity of speaking for Apple at one of their sales meetings, and the person that invited me said something that I mentally DVR'd. He said, at Apple, we don't change with the times. By then, it's too late. At Apple, we change the times. For all of you in this room, no matter what disappointments that you may face, anytime that you get discouraged, I want you to think about this. Never let acceptable get in the way of exceptional. You see, every one of you in this audience are uniquely gifted. Nobody can do everything. All of us can do something. You see, when we focus in on what we don't have, our thoughts and our actions are framed by that thought. When we focus on what we want to accomplish in the same respect, our thoughts and our actions are framed by that thought. I wrote an article not too long ago about Scandia Fun Center here in Citrus Heights. Many of you have been there, and they have a ride there called the Sky Screamer. Probably heard of it. In fact, it was covered by John Blackstone on the CBS Evening News, because you see, here in Citrus Heights, our Sky Screamer is rather unique. Because on our Sky Screamer, you can't scream. Absolutely true. When you enter this ride, you're instructed, do not scream. And the reason that John Blackstone came out to interview the people that not only were running the Scandia Fun Center, but riders, was because he was thinking, is this working? And people would get off the ride and they say, every time they tell me don't scream, I just scream louder. Isn't that interesting? It's because we're focused on what we don't want instead of what we want to accomplish. I have another member of our family I'd like to introduce you to. If you could bring that up, please. She's a world champion. Considered the greatest female skeet shooter of all time. If you went to the Skeet Shooting Hall of Fame in San Antonio, Texas, you'd see her picture. When she was shooting, her name was Judy Allen. Today her name is Judy Young, and this, my friends, is my mother-in-law. Just look at that picture and let it sink in for me. That's my mother-in-law. That's a little daunting. You can take that picture down. It makes me a little bit nervous. Just so think about this. World champion. So I asked her one day, how do you become a world champion? And she said, practice when you want to. And then she said, practice when you don't want to. She said, because when you practice when you don't want to, she said, then you'll always be ready when you call for your target. Which I think is a great segue into the next principle I'd like to share with you today, and that's the principle of the little extra. That's the principle of the lagniappe. Lagniappe is a French Cajun word, my friends. I became aware of it when I was doing some shopping in southern Louisiana. I was looking at the men's suits. They had 42 regular, 42 long, 42 short. Well, I was a little disappointed they didn't have my size. I wear a 42 strange. That's a hard size to find. So I'm looking at the suits one by one. Very nice gentleman approaches me. Sir, hi, I noticed you were looking at the suits. I'm hoping I might assist you in some way in finding just the right suit for you. Wow, was I impressed. I said, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your help, but I'm not going to be buying a suit today. I'm just looking. He asked me why. And I said, well, again, you're kind to ask. I should tell you that I live in California. I'm here in Louisiana. And, well, it's also because of the alterations. My arms are shorter than normal, and same with my legs. And, well, because of that, it's going to require extensive alteration for the suit to fit properly. And so for that reason, I don't think I'll be buying a suit, but I want to thank you for your help. Here's what he said next. Sir, well, I'm sure you're aware that most athletic men have that problem.
Oh.
Really?
I like this guy. I wanted to continue our conversation. I said, could you repeat that one more time? To make sure I heard you clearly. He says, sir, when you have an athletic build like you obviously do, it's going to require alteration for that suit to fit properly. I said, you're absolutely right. I don't know what I was thinking. So I walk over to the mirror. He brings over a jacket. I try it on. And what do I notice? The arms are a little long. They need to be altered. So I vacillated back and forth. Well, should I purchase a suit or shouldn't I? Well, finally I thought I don't need to really make the decision. I just need to consult with him. It's not every day you work with an expert in athletic men clothing. I said, is this the type of suit that an athletic guy like me should be wearing? He said, yes, sir, and there are several others here on the rack that you must have as well. You know, I bought them all. Dillard's department store in Baton Rouge, Louisiana has a sign that says, we never neglect the lagniappe. Well, I'm always on the lookout for, new ideas, stories, illustrations I can use in a book or in a speech. And so I see this word that I'm unfamiliar with, and I asked him about it, and he said, well, that's lagniappe. And then I thought, well, I had heard that word before when I'd been in the New Orleans area, but I was not sure actually what it meant. So he explained it to me. He said, you walk into a place of business. Customer said to the merchant, I'd like 2 pounds of grain. Merchant then would take something maybe like a burlap sack and place it on the scale and then take a scoop out of the barrel, then in the burlap sack. Out of the barrel, pouring it in the burlap sack. I can picture this. Now, the scale registered 2 pounds, which is what the customer asked for. But then, my friends, the merchant takes the scoop one more time into the barrel. And as he or she is pouring it, they say, here's a little lagniappe. The definition of lagniappe is beyond full measure. It means a little extra. Whether it be seeking a job, or whether it be selling a product, people truly only buy 2 things. They buy solutions and they buy lagniappe. And what makes you distinctive in the marketplace, my friends, is that little extra. It's that lanyard. You see, today, I hope something that I can share with you that I hope few of you in this audience will find encouraging. Now, I should preface this by saying that, and I've talked to Pastor Ray about this, it's fascinating. I'll have people come up to me after a presentation and say, Roger, the best part of your speech is when you said this. And I'll think, I don't know if I said that. I'll go back, listen to the tape, look at the video, didn't say it. So what I've learned from that experience is what people hear is a lot more important than what I say. Isn't that true? But here's something that I hope all of you can be encouraged by. And that is, 65 billion people have walked this earth. God only made one of you. You have unique and you have special gifts, talents, and abilities that you can bring to the marketplace. So I think sometimes, my friends, we can become discouraged when we look in the mirror and we say, am I gifted? Am I talented? Well, God tells us that everybody's gifted and everybody's talented. I think the more profound question, my friends, is, how am I gifted? How am I talented? If we can answer that question, we'll never let what we cannot do get in the way of what we can do. See, I talk to audiences a great deal about the difference between fear and anxiety. Fear is tied to something real. Fear, by definition, is rational. In fact, the definition of fear is a reasonable response to circumstances. An understandable response. Anxiety is defined as an unreasonable response to circumstances. It's defined as the anticipation of a negative event, whether it occurs or not. Fear is tied to circumstances, anxiety to our imagination. My friends, when we are facing adversity, people that face fear realize that challenges mean something is new. People that face anxiety look at challenges as something wrong. Here's my point. The negative use of mental rehearsal is a lot more disabling than my hands or my legs. Real handicaps can be overcome. It's the imaginary ones, my friends, that disable us. The truth is, I'm 53 years of age. And my self-imposed limitations have limited me in my life more than my hands or my legs. Following my talk, I'll be around if any of you would like to say hello. I'm going to have the opportunity of meeting. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to shake your hand. If they have the opportunity of meeting, I just want to let you know it's not necessary that you speak loud to me. Common misconception. People have somehow thought that my hands affected my hearing as well. Well, I'm quickly running out of time, but before I go, I just want to thank my cherished friend Dan Locke for inviting me here today. And I also want to say to all the coaches that are here and people that have volunteered for Job 1, congratulations for the amazing significance that you bring to this world. People talk about success oftentimes in terms of prominence. Prominence is all about us. I had someone ask me this question the other day. What do you want in your tombstone? It's a rather daunting question. I thought about it. Here it is. I'd rather be speaking. That's what I want on mine. Prominence is about ourselves. Significance is about others. I think true success is significance. It's about, hey, did my life matter? Did I reach out and make a difference? Did my life have impact? I think that's true success, and the fine people here at Job 1 certainly have expressed that significance in the work that they do. So several years ago, there was a young couple that had given birth to a son, and when he was born, he had a number of challenges. And this couple told me, Roger, when we saw our son for the first time, one of his legs was underdeveloped, and his other leg was bent in an awkward position. They said, we turned to the doctor and said, what does the future hold for our son? He said, I'm sorry, but your son will never be able to walk. Well, that little baby that I'm talking about was me. But when my dear friend Dan Lott asked me to be here this morning, I thought I'd like to bring with me this Olympic torch. I had the honor of carrying it, but that's not what gives this torch meaning. I brought it with me today because of the 3 words engraved on this rim. Altius Citius Fortius. And my hope and my prayer for every one of you in this room are these 3 words. Higher, faster, and stronger.
Amen.
I look at this torch, it reminds me of the blessings God has given me in my life, and that dreams really do come true. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yay.
Thanks.